Okay, well, I hope more will come in because I have to say, I'm very excited to have Deb and Ricky here. I met them, we can't figure out how many years ago, but I think it's close to 20 years ago. I met them at the Omega Institute in New York, and they did a workshop called Grow Food Everywhere. And it was like, wow, that's great. You know, I have this much space in my little backyard. I was not living in Vermont at the time. And I learned about the cardboard method, which has now become very popular. But I never got to apply it until I moved to Vermont. And then I had more space to be growing, and I used it to actually terminate whatever turf was growing, and then went on from there. But anyway, I've always thought of them. They run an annual Garlic and Arts Festival where it's just fabulous. It's a wonderful event. It's not very far from here in Orange,
Massachusetts.
Orange, Mass, yes. So I'm really excited to have, and they have this book that I just purchased because I've been meaning to get it, and now that I can get it directly from the writer. We were founded in 2015. I stole part of their mission of Grow Food Everywhere. I remember emailing you and asked if it was okay if I could use that for everyone. So ours is Grow Food Everywhere for everyone because we do all of these healthy self gardens in different locations. Our biggest Western Avenue food forest has a name. It's called the Whetstone Food Forest. It's mostly perennials that we're growing there, although we will have some annuals in the summer. And Tara is one of the coordinators of that project. So come and check us out. We'll be doing Sunday work days this year. It works better for our other project coordinator. And you're on our email list. You'll be getting notifications and some begging, you know, every here and there. Because it's helpful to have extra people involved, although we work with what we get. So I hope you can join us. We also do a Share the Harvest dance, so we give away free vegetables from July through October. July? Yeah, we open in July. And we get donations from the farmers market, from local gardeners. We harvest from our gardens, and whoever else wants to submit, you know, give us, the food bank gives us some veggies as well. And we just give that out for free, so people have no barriers to getting good food, healthy food, and almost everything. Yeah, everything we do is free. Sometimes we might say donation suggested or something like that, but everything is free. We don't want to have any barriers to people benefiting from what we're doing.
I can get none of my that. So Deb Habib and Ricky Baruch, yeah, and we're married, like partners, kept our full names and all that stuff. Yeah, just really nice to be here. Thank you. Well, tonight is really for all of you, and so we want to make sure that we, you know, are here to respond to any kind of questions or ideas or thoughts that you might have, and we can share together as well. So I'll just tell you a little bit about Seeds of Solidarity, but then we want to, you know, hear from you what brings you here, and then we've got some images to share about different techniques that we use, with plenty of space for you to ask more questions and share ideas with each other, with this whole idea of like, let's get as much food growing in our lives and communities as possible. So it'd be great to just hear your name and where you live, and either if there's anything that brings you here. Hi, welcome. We're just getting going. Perfect timing. If there's anything that brings you here tonight, like if you have a particular interest, be it, you know, I think we talked about also saying, like, if there's something you've grown that you've had success with, that may be something that's been challenging, and or any particular other interest that brings you here tonight. So do you want to start? Your name, where you live, something you've grown that works, something challenge, anything else that brings you here.
Okay.
One of those is fine too.
So my name is Glenn. Live here locally in Guilford, just up the road. Have property in Westminster that we're trying to eventually live on, but also have a farm and things that I've had success with. It's a tough one. I've experimented with a lot of things, and most successful is they love, I shouldn't say successful, the thing I love most is growing the little snap peas, because kids seem to like them, and it's just fun. But I'm trying to grow harder things like fruit and nut trees. And things.
Great. Well, that's a nice way to answer it, things that you love growing. That's great.
I'm Ash, same deal here. Yeah, we incorporated our farm last year. It was very dry, but I did the no-till thick garden bed method, and things grew regardless. Not very well, but it was just, we were just starting. I have lots of questions, but I don't know exactly what to ask yet. This seems like perfect timing because we started the farm. I realized we had this book. Glenn read it, then I read it, and then Edible Brattleboro's here. We're part of this community now. It's just so interesting. We went to the NOFA conference earlier. I was taking a farm beginnings course. Matt just ended, so everything's just coming together. It just feels like we're in the right space at the right time. So I'm excited to hear you. Great. Speak and
Thank you. And NOFA is Northeast Organic Farming Association.
yes.
For people who aren't familiar. Great, thank you.
Quiet, I'm called Rich, and I am of this place, Montasticook, also Brattleboro. Mostly in a position of listening right now and learning and transition. But I am mostly interested at the moment, or probably ongoing, to learn more about food relationships with native crops, whether they are wild or cultivated.
thank you.
Hi, I'm Tara, and I'm a garden coordinator for a number of the schools. I've been doing that for quite a while, and I have this opportunity to be one of the coordinators for the food forest. And yeah, I've been really excited about like seeing the fruition of like the growth of all these. We've been planting like a framework of a lot of native plants through around the school grounds, and then intersperse mixing in annuals and a variety of cultivated between, layers of trees and shrubs and perennial herbaceous. And so I love learning about, from all of you, and I'm so excited to hear about your new farm and different ways of cultivating and enjoying learning about plants and being in relationship with the earth. And yeah, so.
I'm Abby. Thank you so much for being here. This is really awesome. My garlic just started coming up. That's very exciting. I'm trying a new winter planting technique this year, like growing sort of like in like plastic salad containers and stuff, like in the snow, creating little mini greenhouses. See what happens with that. I just have like a little like urban plot in Brattleboro. But I like to grow what I can, and I've done a lot of professional gardening in the past. I have a question. This is a good time to throw out a question.
Sure. We might not answer it.
Sure.
Get to the thing.
But like then we'll know this question.
Absolutely.
So I have too much garden space, so I'm trying to cut back, and I want to transition some of my beds to some like low growing, perennial crop, pollinator friendly something. And so I was thinking like creeping thyme, white Dutch clover, but neither of those is native. So I'm like, what would be a good, low growing native, not lawn thing to put one of my garden beds into? So
Okay, great. All right. Think on that.
great.
Remind at the end if we don't think to mention
Okay.
it during. Okay.
I'm Dennis. I'll double that question about the low growing stuff. I just bought a house in Brattleboro last summer. I moved from Minneapolis. And we have a plot last year and two plots this year in the community garden. which we discovered is a great way to get a whole wide variety of bugs into your space. All people out there. So bug questions, natural pest control mitigation. We have also more lawn than we'd like. And at the moment, it is a smallish city lot, half shade, half sun. Has border gardens on 3 sides that is perennial and annual mix. I'd be interested in edibles that like to cohabit with pretty flower stuff. What can I grow that looks like a garden? And I need to what is the, oh, and I haven't tested for lead yet around the house, but it's a 100-year-old house in a 200-year-old neighborhood, so I assume it's got lead. Any ideas about, is there anything you can grow that you can eat if the lead's not terrible? And other thoughts about, other than just using the space right around the house for just flowers, what other thoughts do you have around lead in these old cities?
Great, yeah. We'll be here for a while tonight. That's great. Thank you, welcome. We're not from here, we're in Massachusetts, but welcome anyway to Brattleboro, Minneapolis.
My name's Laura. I also just moved here from the Midwest, Iowa, about a year ago. I've gardened for a long time. I don't put a lot of effort into it. I'm kind of a chaos gardener, but just enjoy it. I just planted a bunch of seedlings tonight, though. I'm curious. In Iowa, if you don't put up like an 8-foot fence, like your garden will be decimated. And I see plots all over my neighborhood with no fencing, and this is really confusing to me. Do I not need a fence?
Like by deer? Is that the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. Do you want to add anything else? A question or something you're enjoying
Well,
growing?
I just have a few suggestions. Garlic fits in nice in between things because it just fits there and then you just yank it out. It's easy. But I love planting vegetables with ornamentals because why not? And I'm curious about your take on the lead. We found that with our gardens at Turning Point, the raised beds, that's contaminated soil there. We're being told again that we shouldn't be growing stuff there, but we tested the soil and with the raised bed, maybe we didn't go down deep enough, but they were fine after a year. So I don't know, I'm just wondering, and we're also going to be experimenting with hugelkultur, which will be dig down, we're going to be putting in the logs and having the turf above it and logs and just raising it enough. So that might be enough to make your stuff safe. And my understanding is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that fruits are less susceptible to collecting the lead. It's the leafy foods, the foods that you eat the leaves from would be more dangerous. But I'm a kale fanatic and I have to have kale everywhere. And it's so pretty when it grows too, so.
Great. Super. Well, we've already begun what we hope for, is that people do sharing with each other. And so thank you for that. I think just before we go through some slides, and thanks everyone for the great, questions and for being here, or great things you added, I should say. So Seeds of Solidarity is a couple of entities. We're in Orange, Massachusetts. We're about a 45-minute drive from here in the North Quabbin region. And the Quabbin, are people familiar with the Quabbin Reservoir? So the Quabbin Reservoir is the main water supply for eastern Massachusetts. And it was a 4-town valley called the Swift River Valley that was flooded during the Depression era when people really needed jobs and were desperate. And there's a whole story behind that. But I basically mentioned that to say that we ended up in the town of Orange almost 30 years ago because it was a place where we could think about affording land. It's one of the lowest wealth communities in Massachusetts. We've been farming prior to that in different settings. But anyway, so a lot of what you'll see here is about really from the ground up, not starting with really fertile, rich farmland. Ricky runs the day-to-day of our farm, our family farm. And so that is a self-sustaining part of our livelihood community. We do our schedule of workshops and a bunch of different programs and And basically a lot with this mission of Grow Food Everywhere, but also promoting health and wellness and community revitalization, centered around deepening our connection to the land, getting fresh food out to all the people who need it in a variety of ways. So that's kind of the breakdown. And Marilyn mentioned that we also, with our neighborhood, put on a big festival called the North Cobb Garlic and Arts Festival. And it's an all volunteer neighborhood run event. In fact, we might use the tagline neighboring since 1999, which I think someone on the committee was inspired by some of the activism in Minneapolis around neighboring to kind of suggest that. But this will be the 28th year of that. It happens in September and it's on the calendar year. So that's kind of the skinny on Seeds of Solidarity. And mostly we want to go through these images, but make it interactive. And so we welcome your questions. Ricky's going to start with kind of the technique and farm stuff. And then I'll do a little bit more about some of the community things. But I think what we'll do is like show a few slides on particular, there's different language that you might hear or use interchangeably. So no-till is kind of commonly used. It doesn't always mean that it's ecologically focused. There's a lot of no-till in the Midwest that uses herbicides, but it's kind of commonly used. But we also like the term agroecological because it really speaks to the focusing on the life-giving forces and interconnectedness. Some people use the term regenerative. You may have heard that or used that. I had a semi-argument with someone in corporate organic agriculture who we knew from way back in a place where we worked called the New Alchemy Institute, and he didn't like that we were using regenerative. I think they thought of just taking away from some of the sales capacity of the term organic, but you may also hear the word regenerative used, and there's subtle differences, but they can also sometimes be used interchangeably. So Rick?
Actually, it's a great shot. If you've ever been to Orange, on the left is the famous Miss Minuteman tapioca.
Wrote until the soil and use tractors on the soil. Why do you think?
Well, people till to break up the soil and to, get the soil ready for planting, make it like soft and easy to plant in, break up clods.
Okay. Why else do people till or think they need to till?
Get rid of the grass.
That's definitely one reason. Come on, welcome.
To get rid of the grass.
To what's that?
Get rid of the grass.
Get rid of the grass or get rid of the crop residue from the year before. Yeah.
Turning fertilizers.
Okay, to mix things in. Yeah. Anything else?
Use of machinery.
Say again.
Use of machinery.
Yeah,
Once you have it, you have to use it.
I like it. People like riding around on machinery. So do you want to say more about that?
So exactly what everyone said. Like I said, we had no soil to work with, so everything had to be from above. And so we'll show you photos. But basically, I had a farm in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes, and it was organic, but it wasn't humanly sustainable at some point. And so I got out of that. So it was, my mind was always like, how do we grow food in a humanly sustainable way? And we drive by the lever co-op to the land. And think about this cardboard concept. What about if we collected cardboard and put it on the ground? So the concept is, and we'll get into it, but basically everything you all said until nature, the natural world, does it. Especially worms. That's a little passion of mine. But basically, it's like all the stuff I learned in school that's, we've been.
Lies my teacher told me.
Exactly. So that's basically the tilling. It's definitely. And then the other issue is every time you till, what do we release into the air? And so, that's really a really key piece right now is that, studies about, carbon in the soil, keep it in the soil, keep it in the soil, so we don't want to till.
And also, what totally right on. I think sometimes we think, well, it has to be churned up. That's like better soil. But in fact, when you churn up the soil like that, even just flipping it subsoil to topsoil, but certainly kind of churning it or breaking up what would be the till, you're also breaking up this hard-earned, ecological web that the microbes and the worms and the mycorrhizal fungi and all the soil life has been kind of weaving together. And then we kind of mess it up and they have to start again. You know, so the whole idea of not tilling is to kind of let all the soil life kind of work together in the way that they're really good at doing and supporting each other. We can talk more about that as well. But so everything you said, and I think the piece about, well, how do you get rid of the weeds? How do you get rid of crop residue? You know, we'll talk more about that with a couple techniques now. But how many people have like tilled or seen a nicely tilled garden in spring and it's like, oh my gosh, it's May, it looks great, it's clean, I've like planted everything, and then what happens? Like,
weeds.
filled with weeds, right? Because you're also, every time you till, you're bringing weed seeds up to the surface. And they're like, hallelujah, you know, sun and rain and like, let me grow. So that's the other thing. It's like by, not only are you kind of churning up the ecosystem, but you're bringing weed seeds to the surface.
The other piece that's really interesting, not to get too far into the weeds here,
Literally.
but this is what gets really interesting. It's a great place. It's called the Land Institute in Salinas, California. Not Salinas, Kansas. Wes Jackson is the real hero of ours. He's actually been forever working with perennial grain, and now it's actually becoming commercially viable. But check out, but a study a friend of ours did that was there was our relationship with the earth or the soil. We're giving the soil the wrong message by tilling. So it actually, you're enhancing the bacteria we really don't want. But we've given them that message, and that's what we want. So it's actually enhancing, every time we till, we're bringing on the wrong microbes and the wrong fungi. So it's really, not to get too far out there, which is really quite amazing. So it's like, how do we actually work with Earth so it actually does what we're asking it to do? And that's really what's happening.
So here's a few techniques.
So the three techniques we, in the toolbox are, let's see. One technique is tarping. And we're just putting out tarps today. And so it's called occultation, darkness. And that's, it's people really, it's taken off. People are really interested in it now. What happens
that
is,
word again? What is it?
what's that?
What is-
Tarping.
No, but what did you call it?
Occultation.
Occultation, like dark occultation.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the cool things is, if you have it covered come springtime, the ground warms up, so the weeds will come up, but there's no light, will die. And so a lot of people are doing that to bring the weeds up, and then you pull it back and then start planting. But using tarps, and we'll show you more pictures of that. Our favorite, and we'll get more into, is the cardboard method. It's a way I differentiate when I use tarping or cardboard. If I want so-called bare ground to put in a cover crop or direct seeds, I would use the tarp and make so-called bare ground, pull that back. But if I plant transplants, I cover the land with cardboard and plant through it. You'll see that further. And like I said, in order to get cover crops growing, I'll use the tarp, pull the tarp back, and scatter cover crops. And that's another huge thing in the world of cleaning up the planet, is using the cover crops to take carbon from the air into the soil and to get into which varieties of cover crops. There's a lot of really interesting cover crops. There's a whole thing called cover crop cocktails, and that's actually really a big, so we're actually using lots of different cover crops together and see which ones really work well with your soil. But those are the three tools.
And then just one more thing about that. So people might, cover crops are also sometimes known as green manure, because you're basically, it's a way to get very nitrogen rich material back in the soil. But if you grow, for example, a ryegrass, which you would sow in the late fall, and then it comes up in the spring, it's like, well, how am I going to get rid of this ryegrass without tilling? How am I going to return it to the soil without tilling? And so then you go back to one of these techniques, the tarping or the cardboard.
Back in the day.
Just a minute.
Minute tapioca. Sounds like it's got a very interesting history, but now then the bedroom factory, they had great commercial back in the day. So that's one of the few art scrabble community, but that's kind of incubator, the Orange Innovation Center. So there's some gardens there. Then we'll talk more about that. just the greenhouses, we'll get more into it, but, the lens to look at it from is that there was no real soil on our land. The best land, agricultural land, is under the Quabbin Reservoir. So we're on the hills of it, and so there is no soil. And that was really the impetus for having to do the no-till method, because really was nothing to go into. Yeah, it's a great slide right there. It's basically subsoil. There is no soil there. And this is many years later, and
Same spot.
same spot. We grow a lot of native corns. That's people interested in that. I have a real passion for. But you can see, and I think that was really, if we were to end up on Hadley Loam, which is in theory the best soil in the country, what would we be demonstrating? So we actually ended up in the worst in terms of, it's not toxic, there wasn't any toxicity, but in terms of no soil.
Black plastic, if you're driving and you see a farm and they have, maybe peppers or melons growing or something, and there's like black plastic stretched over beds or rows, that's different. That's a different type of plastic. And we consider the tarping we try to use very, as few fossil fuels as possible. That's the other benefit of no-till, not using fossil fuels in a tractor, unless you have an electric tractor running off solar. But the tarping is called silage tarp or bunker covers. Sometimes they call them panda covers because they're white on one side and black on the other. But that's very heavy duty, and they are quite UV resistant. So they'll last like 10, 12 years or more. You just move them around. So it's different than the very thin black plastic that farms use stretched on a bed to grow like a hot crop like pepper or melons, and then it's kind of often needs to be disposed of. So it's something you move around the farm. So it's really a tool in a lot of ways.
Billboards.com, I guess billboards are made of the same, so you can get it from them.
You never know what they're going to say on them. You never know what they're going to do. What?
You just flip it over.
You want me to move over? You never know what they're going to say on them. It could be like stop yeast infections or buy cannabis or something like that. So you kind of have to like go with the flow there.
So that kind of tarp, can you cut it?
Oh, totally, yeah,
And it doesn't fray like
No,
a
no.
plastic tarp?
totally. Yeah, it's
It's
not, exactly, it's not like,
not like a
the
balloon.
woven, exactly.
Tarp.
Not like a polypropylene.
That's a great question.
Okay.
Yeah, remind me, I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Where do you get those thoughts from?
It's called billboards.com or any garden centers are, they're called silage tarps.
Yeah. If you want to
Bunker
upcycle,
covers.
if you want to go for like an upcycled material, billboards.com is like the one that have been billboards, literally. And so it's a material you can use. But we get just silage tarps at like a farmer's exchange or farmer's co-op or something like that, because they're used a lot in the dairy industry to cover silage.
You get used ones in the,
Billboards.com.
yeah, but
Billboards.com.
what did you say about the dairy? You can get used ones in the
Well,
dairy?
the silage tarp, they're silage tarps, and they're used to cover silage.
Yeah,
Not
very
used.
farmer friend, go over there and ask.
Yeah, a dairy might not be using one, or they might have some tears in it or
Right.
something like that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I love this picture. All that cardboard ended up covering an area that was 30 feet wide by 100. So it's almost like a mini farm. That's just one truckload. Furniture store, appliance store. Appliances we're getting these days, solar companies. But yeah, cardboard, what I love about the cardboard, what we're all about is kind of for the every person. It's free. It's basically the forest, basically, into cardboard. So, I love that shot.
So plain corrugated.
Yeah.
Plain, not wax. So the wax boxes, a couple of reasons, like wax will break down, but a lot of the time, especially if it's not an organic produce box, the wax boxes have been sprayed with a post-harvest pesticide of some sort. So really you want the plain, brown, corrugated cardboard, and did you say?
What I love about it is it's free and you basically put it on the ground year round. And the beauty of it is, we call it the worms to perfect singles bar. Worms are not the boy, you're like, just the other day, I give you an example, there's our which is always cover it because you want to keep that cardboard moist. It's got to stay moist. So either leaves, straw, hay. The least expensive thing for us is getting horse manure. And we just cover it with horse manure. That's what we'll be doing the next couple of days. And so here's in the springtime stuff growing, the kales, the lettuces, corn. But the beautiful thing is that someone would say, oh, it seems like so much more work. But the reality is, it's how many things in life do you get such benefit out of? It's our weed control, it's our moisture control, it's our fertilizer. So it's like 3 to 5, it's pretty phenomenal. So you basically have to, doing the extra upfront work, but then you're not, going neurotic about weeding the whole season.
So do you dig holes for each plant?
Ooh, good question. I brought the tool of trade. I'm opposite the guy in that tractor. My whole thing is minimal tools. This is a great story. We pass this around. We had a woman, Star, she's from Zimbabwe, and she worked with us a few years. And then she went back to Zimbabwe and we gave her a dibble. And we joke to this day that she goes back to Zimbabwe to think she's going to bring back some really high-tech stuff. And there we are. She's returning back with her original stick.
This is a dibble?
Got the dibble.
That tool, I never saw one with the curved handle.
They have different kinds. That's the one we like. That's the sturdy one. So doublers are sometimes used to, everybody say, these are great. Do you have another one to compare? Just, no, you don't have a different style.
That's the one.
Yeah.
These are the ones, and so there's different ones. You may have seen kind of, it looks like a T on the top.
Yeah.
And those are fine, but these really, this is like with the metal point, it's really heavy duty. So A.M. Leonard is a company that we've gotten this particular one from, and they're, historically used for planting bulbs. So that's kind of the most of the way that people have used them. But like Ricky said, when your cardboard's just a little soft, you just go into the cardboard and circle it around a little bit and then put in your kale seedling or collard or whatever, your small seedlings. For a tomato, you want a bigger hole, but like lettuce, kale, collard, small green, broccoli, those are great.
So do you do everything using starts transplants?
Good question. That's a great question. So you'll see, that's a great question. Basically, everything I grow outside, including grow a lot of garlic, and over the last 3 years, everything's through cardboard. And so I don't have to do any weeding. I used to have to actually hire a crew to weed the garlic. So not weeding is phenomenal. But everything in the greenhouse is scatter sown seed. You'll see the sack. So no cardboard in the greenhouse. Whoever makes scatter sown seeds, no cardboard.
But I mean, you have transplants of corn that you're putting in the
Exactly.
cardboard? Oh,
Great.
past people said that.
What's that?
I thought I had heard in the past that transplanted corn is a great suggested thing to do.
Back in the day, people would laugh at me. They laughed at me in a lot of things. But I'm going to go that direction. We can talk about that later. But what's phenomenal about transplants is it buys you time for one thing, As we know, corn rots, it grounds cold, crows, you've got overseed it, then you have to take and then spin it. Transplants are the best with corn. Because now you have, what you're doing, you're putting almost like an adolescent into the ground rather than a baby. That's, transplants is where it's at. And we grow a lot of corn. So yeah, it's different.
We grow all like flint corn or dead corn, dry corn, and heirloom corn and indigenous corn. So it's also the seeds really precious. You want to make sure you use each seed well, so the transplant is really nice for that.
So here's a great picture here. Here in this case is the tarp, a thin piece of tarp. But in the greenhouse, to give you an example, a quick story. We get this great compost from Diamond's Compost from the chicken farm, the greatest compost we love. Back in the day, we would play like 100-foot beds, 3 of them a week. lot of ground, right? And all, you know, put down the compost. All of a sudden, amaranth, lamb's quarter, everywhere.
Yeah.
Wake up one morning like, what is going on? Well, it was a disaster. So that's when I found out I had tarping, figure out how to kill it all the time. That's how I got into the tarping thing. So got to the tarping thing, but before I got into the tarping thing, the big no-till, I would have beds beautiful arugula and lettuce that was done. I would have to hoe it out, rake it, and take it all out of the greenhouse. Now I have 4-foot wide sheets of the tarp. I cover it for a week and a half. Kills all that biomass. I haven't really planned to get it. But so here, so you can see, you know, sheets of might be another picture, but right here we could grow it in the greenhouse with the tarp off, corn, all through cardboard, tomatoes, sunflowers. It's just this neat picture. Just so what we're really after is really the whole goal is to keep that soil covered.
And Ricky mentioned like moderating moisture. So in the years when it's been a drought, you can still move you can still like move the soil in the cardboard and say, pretty moist soil, it's not like sunbaked. Then the years when it's been a flood, the cardboard and the mulch moderates the, you know, the intense amount of water and rain. So it really does balance it out.
So we've been farming down here, but you know, got into this like almost 40 years ago. And things have changed in 40 years. Back in the day, it was what river bottom land to farm on. Now the farmers moved up into the hills because of the floods. But the real thing also is the baking from the sun these days. And so basically, once you get to a certain temperature, like 120, life in the soil is dying. So you have bare soil, you're killing all the life in the soil. All the life in the soils, you want it at the top where the roots are. So that's the other beautiful thing about the heavy cardboard mulching, is that basically you want all that life up there where your plants are. You know, talk about prana, the life force. Because I remember one year we had a group come out and I lifted up the cardboard in the drought year around the corn, and it was full of worms. And I said, look, I can guarantee you, you go to Hadley, there's no worms at this height. And that's where you want all the life. You want the life at the top.
Making testings, making fertilizer. And again, okay, so here's we're getting into the tools and also some more smaller scale, local community scale. Travel Dibbler, that's one of my favorite tools with the orange handle. It's called a soil knife. It's modeled after a hori hori. Are people familiar with that? H-O-R-I, it's a Japanese tool. But did you bring a different one? Thank you. But that's a soil knife, which is also nice just for like making small holes, but also you can cut perennial. So the whole idea also is you don't, you know, need to go broke buying every tool. You didn't bring a seed spread. We have like, you know, he does have like the sowers and things like that for root crops, but really a tool you use most of the time is like a little $2, $3 dial sower to kind of scatter sow greens and stuff. So again, you know, we farm commercially, but you don't need to spend a ton of money just to get a few tools, especially when you're going the no-till method, the wheelbarrow, the shovel, a couple rakes. Anyone have a favorite tool you want to share before we favorite tool?
I have it, I want to say a whole mint or something. It's almost like a little blade. It's on a curve, and the handle goes down, ground and down, and it's really nice for kind of tilling a row.
Like a Korean leader?
Yes,
That's one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
You can make whole, you know, we have hose that we never use because there's nothing really
right.
to weed. But those are really nice for making rows and things like that. Organic farms, like a lot of organic farms, they hire all the people they hire in the summer are like weeding crews, you know, and it's like, I always think that they were doing more, keeping the soil covered, those people could be soil building crews more than weeding crews. Anyone else have a favorite tool to share?
I used to fish work a lot.
On those? Yeah, like leaves and compost. Thank you.
So here's basically the technique is basically you have your lawn. So we talked about lawn. You basically cover your lawn with cardboard. This washing machine cardboard there. And you basically with the knife take out cardboard, dig out the soil that's there, most likely it's not very good soil, then put in finished compost. We love Diamonds, and chicken compost was our favorite.
Vermont compost makes a good
Vermont
one.
compost is great. But one of the reasons chicken compost is great because it's the urine and poop together, and urine is where it's all out. That's where all the nutrition is. The poop is the organic matter. But you can see, so we're digging out the holes. So we'll picture after that.
Oh, you want me to take it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, by the way, you see the photovoltaic panels there? So our farm is all off the grid, always has been. So our home and farm is all off the grid. So although it's really just, pumping the water we need for the hoop houses and all of our household uses.
Well, I guess, oh yeah, so maybe that picture there. Basically, you got your hole, you put your compost in, put your transplant in it, and you're off. This is a little demo we did at the Garlic Arts Festival years ago. But basically, within a few hours, you could have a garden. Basically, cover the side with the cardboard. So there's 3 different methods. We have for big transplants like tomatoes, eggplants, peppers. Put down the cardboard, dig out the existing soil, put in compost, put in your transplant. Be a tomato like every 3 feet, something like that. So that's for the big plants. It's like instant farming sort of thing, instant garden thing. If you're planting stuff close by, like smaller transplants like kale, bok choy, chard, collards, what we would do is, this is like when you want an instant garden. You have no oil on the side. You put down this much compost, put the cardboard on top of it, put down some hay, let it rain on it. You always want to have your cardboard get rained on. Put the devil right through the cardboard if it gets rained on, and then put the transplants in. So that's for smaller transplants that are maybe 12 to 18 inches apart. This is all about saving, so using the compost where you need it. And another technique for the instant gardening way is for greens. So I put down the cardboard right on top of the lawn, put about this much compost on top, finished compost, and scatter sow arugula, lettuce, spinach. So basically the main things you can grow how to do it with cardboard instantly. So you don't have to have a rototiller, you don't have to have good land.
And then does the cardboard get softened up during the summer, the roots grow right through it?
For the last one, the greens, most greens you grow, the roots aren't that big. But yeah, they will, just kind of help infiltrate that cardboard. But anything that had deep rooted things, that's why you would cut out the cardboard. Exactly, great question.
And if there's a spot, like if you want to expand a garden on the lawn or start a garden, community garden space, or start a garden new, like now's a really good time to put down some cardboard because it won't kill all the sun now, but it'll be soft enough so it'll be really easy to dig through. The fall, like this, next fall, if you want to plan ahead for expanding your garden, put cardboard down, cover it with something, and then by the next spring, that sod layer will gone, or mostly gone. So, but you keep adding it. But again, this is saving you from like, here's a lawn, what am I gonna do? I have to get in there, till it up, and then I have to get like a half truck of compost or whatever to pour on top of it. This way, you just put it where you need it, and meanwhile, the cardboard is breaking down the side and enriching the life in the soil, so that by the next season it'll all be.
Just one question with the cardboard. I've had it fly away.
So when we started, we used to just use straw or hay. Due to global weather, the winter are so intense these days. That's why we've gone to using manure. That's actually least expensive. And I'm not thinking of it as much of a nutrition, but to hold the cardboard down. But yeah,
The staples, the garden
Yeah.
staples, the whole thing.
Yeah. Just get some manure.
Yeah, or like just also go covered as you go, rather than
But yeah,
cover a whole field. When you can also just put a few pieces of cordwood or some rocks and like.
Yeah, right.
When you say you put manure on top, are you talking about like unfinished manure, like non-composted?
good question. Yeah. I'm actually gonna get it loaded from the dairy farm in the next couple of days. But horse farms especially, because they have to get rid of the manure,
Yeah.
they can't store it. That's my favorite.
And since it's on top, it's not like,
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. The issue with animal manure is the bedding, the wood shavings. And so what you don't want to do is mix wood chips into the soil because basically what you've heard about, the carbon will steal nitrogen. And so what's happening, once again, the magic of nature, is the microbes, they see that carbon, the microbes start eating it, but for them to eat that carbon, they need nitrogen that fuels them. So it's pretty wild. But so as long as it's on top, it's not a problem.
And maybe not like super gush, but like if it's got enough bedding in it and stuff. But like I think maybe wondering, you don't want to put hot manure next to or in with plants, both because they'll burn the plants and because the pathogens in the manure haven't broken down yet. But yeah, it's like a cover on top of the cardboard. It's a good use of it.
That's more kind of demoing that last method where you put down the compost, put the cardboard on top, and then dibble through it to put your kale, collards, and
Especially if you're building up,
Yeah.
literally like something that's so hard packed or asphalt.
but that's
So like our first year at the Omega Institute where we couldn't even bang rebar into the ground and had to just go straight.
but that's what they're doing like in Milwaukee with Will Allen. The one, yeah, because they're dealing with brownfields. So in terms of if you have ground that's really toxic, how to grow food above it.
Which gets at, kind of your question also is if you're not going down, you're building up. And also, it is good, especially if you know there's lead, I would definitely test it, but it would be interesting to try some of these methods, building from the ground up, because microbes also are the great purifiers of the earth, so having a rich microbial environment will help detoxify things. But of course, it'd still be a good idea to test for lead if you know you have lead, before you grow any, certainly any leafy greens or anything like that.
Around here anyway, it's worse right by the houses because the houses are all painted.
For them, yeah.
And the flakes and the rain is washing. So you get this far from a house, it diminishes rapidly.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why it's a great place, like you were saying, for flowers and ornamentals and things like that, that you're not consuming. Sunflowers are known to also pull out some toxins out of the soil. So you don't want to eat the seeds maybe from them, but they can be good detoxifiers as well.
This is a really favorite shot also is, so we talked about cardboard to ad nauseum, but that's really my passion. The other cool thing you can do is cover crops. You can grow cover crops and it's called crimping. It's really taken off. The Amish really took it, but it's really, so basically what crimping is if you cut the cover crop, it will grow back. You knock it down, it will grow back. But crimping is breaking the stem. And so if you have a cover crop growing, you get out in there with the rake and you break the stem, you basically have a carpet of biomass breaking down, and farmers are dibbling into it, bit large scale also, but also you're making a slit through it and they can put the seeds in it, because that's crimping. So that's interesting. But another way what we do is, you see we have a cover crop growing here, it's raw and growing. What I've done is I put out a string, you see the string there, and I knocked down that bit of cover crop, put down compost on top of that, and I dibble right through. A Narragansett corn would grow. So the beautiful thing about this is the corn's growing, the compost is breaking down, but the cover crop is growing. The initial concept I told you about crimping is great, but being that it's a grass, all cover crops are grass, they break down really fast. And the next thing you know, it looks great at first, the weeds start coming through. So a lot of people are getting leaves or something. But the nice thing about this technique is you haven't killed all the cover crop. The cover crop's still growing, taking carbon out of the air. This is a great for corn, winter squash, stuff you're planting far enough apart. So what you would do is, in the end of the summer, fall, grow your winter rye. It comes up in the spring, And by the time you're planting your corn or winter squash, it's about yay tall. And you just basically, knock down, or once you put down that compost, it knocks down that little, kind of little pathway, and you dibble right through it. So you can see how much all that beautiful cover crops. A lot of cool cover crops. One on the left, this is fava beans, which are wonderful. That's rye. One on the right is Sudan grass, grow 12 feet tall. Another cool thing is if you're into having raised beds, you can have one raised bed vegetables, one cover crop, one vegetable, one cover crop. And that cover crop could be your mulch. Be the Sudan grass, grows real tall. And there's a whole world of cover crops. The fastest growing cover crop is buckwheat. So you have little weeding issues. Put that in, it grows faster than the weeds.
In the summer.
In summer, buckwheat's great. Why we love the winter rye is you can plant it in the ground can be 30 degrees. So basically you sow it in the fall, it hardly grows. It's all about root growth. It's just like garlic. But come spring, it shoots up. Oats are another great one. They winter kill. So meaning you grow them in the summer, they'll die in the winter time, and then you can plant right into it. That's your mulch. Oats are great. Sudan.
And think about oats also, you can harvest the seed head, and that's if you're into kind of herbal preparations like milky oats, if you harvest them at the right time, you can make really nice tinctures, really good for the nervous system and the oats from the seed head.
So you got to imagine, you have this tarp, you had the tarp. I can tell you, nothing makes a better seed bed than tarping. I've been farming for about 40 years now. And so when you use the best machinery in the world, you're growing a cover crop, you till it in, you've done all this destruction, released all this carbon into the air, but you have all this material to deal with. And the beautiful thing about that tarping, it basically, all that, biomass breaks down, the worms are taking it, and it's just the most, what's left is just worm casting. It's pretty miraculous. So you pull back that tarp, and you sow your cover crops. And when the cover crops are done, put the tarp on top of it, or cardboard. Another technique I'm really into is, does anyone ever notice the best stuff grows in your compost pile? Right? So the reason is there's life, so much life. So what I'm really into is growing cover crops. Come spring, put the cardboard on top of it and plant through that. So all that biomass is breaking down. That's what plants love. That's life. So you get into that.
I was going to say something about the veg. Also, I'm trying to think about what you were asking, Abby, about, there's areas that you don't want to have cultivated for vegetables, like other things that are kind of lower growing and perennial, right? And I'm still kind of thinking about it. But a couple of things that I've been thinking about veg. That's just that veg is a perennial, right, Brett? The veg?
It'll survive.
You don't keep coming back.
Yeah.
So thinking about like a cover crop, but I was also thinking about, sorry, there's a little diversion from this. Thinking about like if you have a source of wood chips, there's some, if you like mushrooms, like I think wine cap mushrooms. I don't know that much about mushrooms, but like that's like having wood chips on cardboard in areas where you're not ready to cultivate. But what else can grow in those things? Like the wine cap mushrooms came to mind. So anyway, I just was still thinking about, those aren't necessarily the native things that you're looking for that are lower growing, but thinking about that.
This is I love this photo. So when you're in that tarp, and so once you've built the soil up, the weeds are going to grow really good. And so I hadn't been able to tarp this after the garlic came out, but in a very short period of time, you can see the weeds. So that's our whole thing. Either keep them covered with tarps, cardboard, or cover crops, so you're never dealing with weeds. But this is really how the tarp works. Has the canvas cover, the white side. You can just see what's left is just kind of the brown biomass. And I remember one year I was thinking, doing the greenhouse, it's like, wow, is it like burning the soil out? But what's ends up happening is I lifted up one day and the worms just doing their thing. And once it starts drying out, the worms will start going below. By that point, it can start below. But it just makes the most beautiful stuff. So what ends up happening is all that biomass will just either plant through or just rake away. And what's left is a whole layer of worm castings.
How long do you leave the silage tarps on?
Well, that's the thing. In the greenhouse, pretty quickly, we can get, have a bed of arugula be ready to plant in like a week and a half in the greenhouse. But outside, it all depends what it is, but a couple of months, things sort of plan accordingly, you know. So that's it.
Does anybody have any questions about, any other questions about the tarping or the cardboard or cover crops before we go on? Those three techniques?
I have a question that covers all three of them. Do you just walk wherever you want? Do you have paths?
Good question,
Or
really.
is a path one year totally different than next year? And
That's a really good
so
question.
that impacts the soil.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I remember when the garlic arts festival, I realized, oh, that's why people start thinking to tilt. They're walking on the beds. So most of our, and especially the greenhouse, they're all paths. And in the fields, you know, especially with the cardboard, if you walk in the cardboard, it's really not doing any compaction anyway. So, but mainly at this point, in fields, I just have them covered with cardboard. So I walk in the cardboard. That would answer your question. Yeah.
Well, because you're adding a significant amount of material every year.
Yeah.
Right? So that probably
Yeah,
greatly makes up for any walking the previous.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good question.
Great question. Any other questions about the tarping or the cardboard or cover crops?
Well, it's sort of related because the cardboard does attract worms. What about jumping worms? Any thoughts on that?
Denise will mention that.
Stay away from that. I think that it's a hot topic for some people, but like, I got my head in a lot of other places these days. Iran and Gaza, so I'm there right now. You know.
Wait, are you saying that you don't worry about it, or you're saying that,
Yeah.
uh-huh?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about the horse manure, like I know.
Yeah.
that can be-
We haven't had, you know, I don't know if it's that big an issue personally. I mean, the big thing is as long as you're adding lots of organics to your soil, yeah, I wouldn't.
I don't think, yeah, it's hard to figure. I mean, can you see what extension agents are up to in terms of if they figured out how to really?
Last year wasn't as bad as the year
I
before.
think it wasn't, yeah, it was very 2023.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make light of it because it isn't serious.
No.
But I think it does change, and I think, you know, invasives, be they invasive species or invasive plants, are responding to, you know, the conditions that humans have created. So it's like, we're not, you know, I'm not saying we're trying to bring in more jumping worms or anything like that, but I think things are changing. Every year, there's gonna be a little something different that is gonna be an invasive problem. Does anyone you want to say anything else about that in terms of eradication of them or?
What? I've never heard
Of jumping worms?
You never heard it.
We've never heard of
Some people are really freaked out about it, but it's like, look, there's a lot more issues.
We're watching it though, but we don't want them. They eat through a lot of organic matter very quickly as part of the problem with them.
What are your thoughts on other worms as invasive species, not native to?
Other like most of them are like, you know.
Yeah, like, we don't have any earthworms
Yeah.
that are native.
Um,
So I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously they're here, we're not trying to get rid of them, but just like,
Yeah,
we rely on them for fertilizer, and obviously that's staying, right? And they're so beneficial, but then they're also not native, so. just
Yeah.
curious what your thoughts.
a friend of ours is a terrestrial ecologist, Tom Wessel. If you don't know him, stuff is really great. His thing was like the worm castings, the poop is so very beneficial, you know, not talking about the jumping worm, but the other grinding earthworms, so beneficial that as long as you're feeding them enough where they are, because we're basically in the forest, so we don't want them to have to leave and go out to the forest ecosystem. So as long as we're providing enough organic matter that they can be eating and transforming that into castings, like his opinion was that's like, okay. You know, it's like if they're lacking in organic matter and they start moving out into the forest ecosystem, that was his take.
He's amazing. If you ever get a chance, Tom Wessel's Reading the Forest and Landscape, he's a former Vermonter. But what's really amazing is we're very acidic. Our land is very acidic. It's full of mountain laurel, very acidic land. We've never purchased lime. And why? It's the worm castings make it basic. So to me, that's just mind blowing. Is that, you know, all of us have issues. I mean, talk about beings that are invasive for the planet. You know, let's not forget about the jumping worms, man. So that aside, that the fact that we're actually able to grow a lot of food intensively and turn that soil into give you an example. We did Cornell testing, and our soil is some of the best soil in the whole Franklin County regional.
Now.
Those are cardboard and worms. And that's, American Farmland Trust proven, that's in that realm. So, because it worked, completely worked. So, they're real good.
So, after you've been in one location for a number of years, you're adding and adding and adding. At some point, you clear out and you have,
We've been doing this, and the greenhouses are getting kind of coming down on me at this point. But yeah, I know. But that's there's a lot of life in the soil, and it just, you realize, stuff breaks down quicker and quicker because you have so much life in the soil. Yeah, no, but they're doing their thing.
You were asking, I just want to forget, you were asking about fences, because you were like where you were before, you needed a lot of fencing for animals. We're in the forest. We do have, porcupine, deer are the main, eaters of crops, rabbits. So we are having to fence more because they seem to be getting hungrier and increasing and finding our land. But I'd say, like, depending on how populated an area you are, just watch it and see. If you're in a more populated area, they may or may not be finding, your garden. But we're putting in a little project of a native plant nursery right now, and working with a couple of people who really know a lot about native plants and having fun with that. Just before we got here today, we had recently milled 12-foot oak posts delivered so we can make a really nice fence around this native plant nursery, because otherwise it will get munched. It will get munched.
I
So
would say that Brattleboro doesn't have anywhere near the deer population that Minneapolis or Compton, Iowa would have.
yeah,
It's 1%.
yeah, yeah. So. And there's different things you can try. You can, get like coyote urine and fox urine and put your hair out and put things that make noise, and like owls on post to attract, owls on post to scare off different, things. Like there's all kinds of having a lot of posts and heights in your garden to attract birds of prey that will go after rodents and things like that. So, there's all kinds of little tricks, but maybe just watch it and see what happens for a little while.
By the time you find out you're garden.
Say it again.
By the time you find out.
How do you find out?
But that-
Ask your neighbors.
A great thing in terms of, that's a good one, in terms of, we didn't get into it, I don't see how many pictures. A great product is Remay
I've
Agribond.
been seeing it actually on the outside of the hoop house.
That is a floating road cover. That's a savior. And so what that's all about is keeping the ground warm, especially in the spring and the fall, just a couple of degrees. We're always close to freezing. But what's great about it is it keeps the animals out. So, for example, most of our greens, you can make hoops. We can talk about that. Or you don't even have to use hoops, but you cover it with that, and the animals cannot get into the crops. So,
Even woodchucks, that's what I've had a lot of success with.
yeah, exactly. So,
Especially if plants are young and
Road others.
protected the most.
Yeah.
I think there's another, this was just, we just want to show, so we do a lot of growing in hoop houses because we grow a lot of greens, like that's a fast growing, people love them, 3-season crop. So we've got a number of these hoop houses in which we grow different salad mix. And then we used to do a lot more deliveries. Now we mostly sell at our farm stand and to a local food co-op and to the Arlington Arts Festival. But this is a smaller version of that. So you can get, this is called a low tunnel. So the other thing is a high tunnel or a hoop house. Those are used interchangeably when they're bigger and you're not really relying on mechanical ventilation or additional heat, just the heat of the sun. So this is called a low tunnel. And so this is much more of a home scale kind of thing. Does anyone show of hands if people have grown in? It's got a low tunnel, basically. I don't know what folks use for hoops, but these are metal hoops, and we have a simple hoop bending device that we got from Johnny Selected Seeds. It's a really nice thing for like a neighbor. Might be a nice thing for Edible Brattleboro to have. It's a fun community thing. You don't have that yet, right? So you get this hoop bender. It's like $60 or $70 or something like that. And then you get EMT, which is 10-foot electrical metal tubing. And you basically you can do it yourself, but it's nice to have two people just to hold one end. You measure 16 inches and you wrap it around the hoop bender. It's easy physically. It's like simple machine, like leverage to wrap around. And then you make these hoops that are very long lasting. And then you place them like in your bed and in the soil, and then that's the floating row cover over it. You could also use a greenhouse plastic over it to make yourself a little mini greenhouse. But we've done workshops where, you know, bring your EMT or you buy it or whatever for, it used to be like $3, now it's like $6 with the price of tariffs and things like that. And then you have these nice permanent hoops that you can place at just a little distance. So that's a nice home scale or community scale season extension.
What is the floating row cover made of, and does it break down?
It doesn't, no, it's a, you want to take care of it so you can use it year after year. It is like a polyester fiber type of material, so it's not a naturally occurring material that breaks down. So, you know, you want to take care of it so you can kind of use it year after year. And there's different thicknesses of it. The thin stuff rips pretty easily, but it lets more light and moisture, and the thicker stuff will last a little bit longer.
And with that, I'd love getting that like from commercial vegetable farms that need their pieces to be big and intact. But then, you know, once it like gets enough rips in it, they need to get rid of it, but it's like still totally fine for a home garden. You can get like a 20-foot by 10-foot piece that's perfectly no holes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for them, they need 300 feet with no holes or whatever.
Great idea. Yeah, to ask around for that. Great idea. They'd be happy to pass it on or sell it cheaply. So just want to go through a couple images of just some other ways of, you know, doing gardening in community and home settings. Just one thing to keep in mind, if you're using containers or building, you know, beds out of wood, don't use pressure treated wood. But whatever you're making your beds out of, we're fortunate in New England, sometimes I'm not sure what mill you have here, but you can get like rough cut wood, you know what that is? It's not kiln dried and it's not all sanded. Is there a rough cut, like a lumber place that mills wood in Brattleboro?
Gilbert.
In Gilbert, okay, great. So you can get like, you know, fairly less expensive rough cut wood or using containers or what have you. But a nice mix if you're starting, you know, from scratch is like 50 loam, 50 compost, and that gives you a nice mix. If you have like a really deep one, that's a lot of soil. If you want to know how much soil you need, you can go online and do a soil calculator. But I've like just put like layers of leaves and cardboard and sticks and all kinds of stuff to build up. And then all you need really is like that much soil and compost in the top.
We use, a culvert, like, they're like 6 inches around, black, it has slits in it. We put them in the bottom of 55 gallon, and we cut those in half, and those are our round. If anyone knows where the root is, we have a container garden there with 10 of these half 55 gallon structures. And in that, we have that hose thing that's like 6 less, so that takes up a lot of room on the bottom, but it lets the water stay there.
It's drainage pipe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea. So it's air and water.
Is that a waste?
And we put in a regular pipe going down, a plastic pipe, you know. So we water through that, so it gets watered from the bottom up.
That's a great
And
idea.
those have been very successful, and we hardly ever have to water those.
It's a
That's a
great
great idea.
Yeah, and we put a little drain on the bottom so that it won't overfill, so there's a little skinny hose coming out the bottom.
Okay.
Tom Green, our garden coordinator, had come up with that. He did some homework on it, and that's the way we do our container garden.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Anyone else have ideas for garden beds that you've done or want to share? Like literally raised?
I have a question. So we took apart a deck at our house, and we were thinking of making raised beds. Do we not want to use that kind of wood?
What's it made out of? Do you know? Was it cedar?
I don't know. It's either it's cedar, which would be good.
Yeah, cedar would be great.
If it has a green tint to it, most likely it's pressure treated.
And then you might not, then you don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's cedar, you'd be golden.
That's great. If it's old cedar, then you can still use it. Yeah. And again, the reason to you don't have to make bound beds. It can just be mounds on the soil.
Just make,
But,
like
but
logs,
it's,
like put
Sure.
logs around and then fill the soil.
yeah, logs, rocks, like, you know, whatever you have. What did Tony Perdomo do? He did,
Old roofing, kind of like that metal.
like metal roofing and made like nice, like bounded beds. You will want to see like that. And again, just like using all kinds of different containers. That's the entry to our house. I just like, even though we have other farm area, I like having lots of pots with different fresh herbs or flowers or just kind of an entry, milk crates, fish flats. If you've ever worked in a restaurant, fish comes in, or, the seafood market, fish comes in those flats, and just make sure you have some holes in the bottom for drainage. But there's all kinds of simple containers you can use. Those garden bags are recyclable plastic garden bag. Sometimes when I do workshops, we do those kind of container gardens because we work with a lot of people that don't have any space. They're in temporary housing or
Like the coffee
what now?
bags.
Oh, you're using like the bags that coffee beans come in that coffee roasters use, roll them back and fill those with soil. We also use a lot of those. We're talking about things that break. But you were asking if the floating row cover breaks down, and it doesn't. But if you have a source of coffee bags from like a coffee roaster, those make great pathways.
Perfect
Like,
size.
great, putting them in the pathways. They don't break down quickly. They will break down in time. But the organic coffee bags or organic coffee that comes in those burlap bags is really nice for garden pathways. So we use a lot of those, and we'll tell you our source.
And the coffee grounds are great too.
What's that?
And the
Exactly.
coffy grounds are great.
Exactly.
Yeah, coffee grounds, they said it looked great.
Hypes up the worms.
Jumping.
That's why they started jumping on it.
That makes them jump. Happening work. So just these are some of the things we do through our organization. We ran a teen program for about 20 years, and we don't anymore, but a lot of the curricula that we developed is on our website. It's free. We run a program called Women Healing Earth. I have a flyer over there if you want to take a picture, and those are, I raise funds through grants and donations to help make a lot of our educational programs free. We do teach, we've taught for about 10 years in Franklin County Jail, our county jail in Massachusetts. So we teach college credit bearing gardening courses for people who are incarcerated there. We're really trying to keep it going now with the sheriff. The current sheriff doesn't get the concept as much as the last sheriff did, but we're doing what we can to keep.
If you can't read the box, what it was, it is from land of the free.
The guy's decorated growing boxes. But that's actually a neat idea, again, just for small scale growing, like getting some simple wood, slats on the bottom, so there's some drainage. You can grow salad greens, you can start your seedlings in those. You can do little mini, culinary herb gardens, as long as they're like 4 foot.
And that's how we actually start our farm. Early on, you have those rough cut boxes, right? In that case, it has a solid bottom, which is drilled through it. So they're like this, full of soil. But what I'm able to do is I can get 10 rows in that box. Wow. And I'll put kale, collards, broccoli, choy. So I can grow incredible amount of seeds, right? Plants. And then by the time they get big enough, I need to transplant it. It's warm enough that we can start take them out of that, put them into trays.
Oh, the fruit trays, 72 holes in it.
And then it's warm enough. So that's how I can start things really early in the house. A lot of fruit in the house. And then when it starts warming up, I transplant them into trays. That's where they are now in the greenhouse. And then when it really warms, I can start planting them outside.
But are you saying with the garden crops that you're planting them all in the same dirt, kind of densely but in seed, and then you take them out loose, like a little bit of dirt hanging on their loose roots, and then you put them in the little cells?
One by one.
Exactly.
Oh, I've never known anyone to do that.
Yeah.
Because they all say they're all so fragile.
That's the
So
hope.
you should put the seeds in each cell.
But they would take up so much space.
Right.
You have to have a huge, can you imagine?
Yeah.
We're growing, that's like 1,000 plants in this little box, which is great. So I can have multiple boxes of that, thousands of plants.
Yeah.
And then when it starts warming up, then I transplant them put them into the fifth piece. Okay. But then in the warmer time of year, I'll just put the seeds into the 50 trays because I have tons of space.
It is a tender operation.
Right.
Like you want to scoop whenever you're transplanting something. And we always want to say to people also, like, starting seedlings and transplanting is like, I get that all of you have experience, but it's a little more advanced than like just focus on your soil, get your soil going well, go to your farmer's market and get some like plants. There's no shame in like buying seedlings from your local farmer's market, right? Where they've been able to raise them in their hoop house with care every day. But no shame in that at all, but it's really fun to start your own seeds too. Yeah, but transplanting, you always want to touch things by the leaves, not the stem, when you're transplanting, because the stem is where all the fluids are. So like if you have these itty bitty baby kale seedlings and you're scooping them out from one of those trays, and you want to separate them out in the pots, touch them by the leaf and just like make a hole and just like drop it in and put the soil around it, rather than grabbing the stem.
Really brilliant idea.
Yeah, you want to be gentle with them. Just a couple other things we do, and these are all on the blue cards that I hope you'll take, is we have some volunteer days and kind of with farm tours. We do a 2-day building workshop in August. Farmers, artists, anyone, just doing yourself skills. We're doing some more kind of restorative and retreat-like days, creating garden altars, a day of soothe the soul with different wellness techniques. And then I mentioned the workshops through Women Healing Earth. And then just briefly, has anyone here been to the North Public Garden and Art Festival? Yay! So we started out with our neighbors. And this year's date is up there, 2026. And we hope you enjoyed it. Those will come. And it really is a very kind of a, you never know what's going to happen, right? When a few people come up with an idea like Edible Brattleboro or Barush and Arts Festival. But it really has been a very joyous part of our lives to co-create this with our neighbors and the committee that creates it. We also love each other. We meet monthly. We have potluck dinners, and I hope those of you who are newer to the Northeast will come this year. It's really quite a wonderful event. You can go on baruchandarts.org to learn more, and it really genuinely supports a lot of artists and farmers in our immediate region who didn't have, a really good venue nearby, and we're always leaving the community to sell. I was talking to a friend of ours, Elaine, who lives in town, and she does these like amazing spice mixes, and she's a caterer. And she said like the Garlic and Arts Festival weekend financially carries her through the winter. Boy, that's not, she's not a person with a lot of money. Like that, obviously she prepares a lot for it, but that's like the money she needs to get through the next few months. So that's like a really meaningful thing for like a single, low income woman to be able to say that is quite significant.
And you only produce 3 bags of garbage.
Yes, that's true. Everything is composted and recycled. And we started doing that from the start. Like now it's a lot easier as, for people to get a range of compostable products and things like that. Then we had to buy everything for all the food vendors for once. So I think that's it. So let's just see if we have any questions that we didn't cover. Which questions did we answer? Or that others can answer for each other that were brought up at the beginning? Anyone?
I don't recall that you spoke much about bug control.
Okay, bugs. Green Bay, and also there's now, there are insect barriers, which are similar to those floating around October. And that will also keep out predators, bigger animals. So insect barriers, I'm just thinking what's the easiest.
Have you used fowl? I mean, like chickens or guinea fowl? 'Cause-
I had
No,
not,
that's a great, we don't have them, but that's a great idea. If you want to keep chickens,
Yeah,
yeah,
you have to want to take care of the chickens.
well, yeah.
no, there's that whole world, I'm all about it, but
Right?
our biggest issue has been animals such as porcupines, mainly, and deer, as opposed to the bugs. Potato beetles, one thing for potato beetles, plant the potatoes late as you can.
And the same with squash.
Winter
I've
squash.
had great success for squash,
From
to
squash.
prevent squash bugs.
Really
Potato
later.
bugs and squash bugs, plant them
Like
again.
how later?
Yeah.
Like up to, you can even plant them up to like, I don't know, July.
We planted our potatoes.
Get later.
in
Front seat.
July.
There's summer.
Yeah.
People who planted earlier, they got all the bugs.
Yeah.
I mean, I still had some, but not,
Yeah.
wasn't nearly as bad as our neighbors.
When are you planting your potatoes?
What's that?
When are you planting your potatoes?
That's it. Let's see, where am I? I would say into June,
Uh-huh.
May, June, or even later, mid-June, yeah. Especially the sad reality where we're dealing with climate chaos, it's staying warmer
Yeah.
later, so might as well push it. Yeah, push as much as you can, definitely with the dado beetle. I like that, squash beetle. Like I said, remade, the floating rug covers is great. Flea beetles could be a real bugger on like, greens, like arugula and stuff like that. Actually, the other cool thing about growing the stuff in the greenhouse is supposedly the light, infrared light or something, never really got too into it, but messes with the insects. A lot of insects will not go into the greenhouse.
Yeah, that's so true. I've seen.
Don't tell them that. That's so in terms of,
Even if it's like glass,
still the sidewalls stuff, it's
mesh.
light changes for them. It's free stuff.
it's like orchids too.
But yeah,
I was gonna say, I mean, this isn't, the healthier your soil and the more diversity you have is gonna help. Just like our own bodies, right? We're not gonna not get sick, but I mean, the most we can keep a balanced microbiome and a balance and a balanced, trying to keep as much beneficial bacteria in our own bodies through the foods we eat and diversity of foods, it helps. It helps. It's not, gonna make it an end all. So it's kind of the same with the soil. The richer you can make the soil, the more diverse the plant life, the more diverse types of species we can invite will encourage some balance. Also, like if you see a few bites out of your bean leaves, doesn't mean it's not going to make beans.
Yeah.
So if something gets totally defoliated or totally destroyed, it's one thing. But sometimes there will be kind of, like a trapped plant. So like one broccoli might be filled with aphids, but maybe the others are okay. Like just let them stay on that like one broccoli. Yeah, so, and it's gonna be different every year too, like what insects.
neem is good. That's talk about a natural from India. Neem for spraying is neem. There's also another product called Karanja, also from India. But yeah, there are some safer so-called sprays.
There's a lot of benefit to just having a lot of diversity anyway, in that.
And also biological pests. There's a whole certain catalogs you access to have beneficial insects to release. From mites.
They have to release them at the right time of the pest
But if you have a high
life cycle.
certain crops, cannabis, for example, mites are a problem, predatory mites and things like that. So it's worth it sometimes for certain crops. Yeah.
Anybody have any thoughts on my low growing native
Yeah.
pollinator friendly perennial?
Or
So one thing we have a lot of seeds from, because we want to grow, we have a lot of pathways that we're gonna be
Yeah.
low growing mixes. And there's the Vermont Wildflower Seed Company,
Okay.
and I think we got I don't know, I have 5 different mixes, and and it's some of them are, includes clover, which isn't some things that aren't native, but there are a number of native mixes. And there's
Okay.
up to very low to maybe that grow like this.
But like the
And grasses
type,
that might
like-
fall over
Yeah.
after they get to a certain height. They'll just kind of flop over, and we don't have to mow them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just if you go online to that.
Okay.
And then I wish my friend Anya was here right now that we're doing the native plant nursery. She'd have some idea. I was thinking of a wild bergamot, but that's not very, like a wild, more of a wild bergamot would be found, but it's not a.
Yeah.
Very low growing.
Yeah, it's not quite low enough. That's not what I have in mind. Yeah. I know clovers are good, but they're not like what
Yeah,
clovers
we
are.
essentially looking
it's not.
for something that would be wheelchair accessible.
Uh-huh.
Because the wood chips are not easily traversed in a wheelchair. And so we have the smaller footpaths, the wood chip ones are our service pathways, which we might end up covering with something else anyhow, but it was just, this is at the food forest. But having something low growing that would make it accessible to someone in a wheelchair. And I haven't, we haven't even planted them yet. This is the year we're gonna plant these seeds that we got, I guess it was last year, and season, and we'll see which works best.
You got a low growing ground cover. What did you get?
That's what
Same?
Tara's talking about, yeah.
Oh, when you say we, you're talking about edible.
A low
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
so come by, and, you know, we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. We'll probably be planting them next month, maybe,
Okay.
or in
Like,
May. I think we could get the seeds out early.
Yeah.
I think it's not native, obviously, but like times and things.
I know, I was thinking about like creeping thyme and white clover, and then I was like, oh, neither of these is native. Can I find something else like that? I mean, they're not invasive.
Yeah.
Right.
Either of them, so,
I
and
have
they're,
creeping thyme growing in my orchard. I did a
Uh-huh.
pathway of creeping thyme, and it was a couple of years ago, and this year it's looking really good. Now that the snow has melted, I see that it's so
Cool.
distinct, that pathway.
and do you plant these from seed?
I
Did you
just seeded it.
Yeah.
And we have a whole mound of food for us.
Uh-huh.
The time is
Yeah.
amazing.
And
Yeah,
you
sweet
plant it
clover.
from seed, creeping thyme.
Seeded it and over and weed and then seed.
Yeah, you know, I mean, sometimes we're not native either, so, you know,
I know, it's true.
it's not opportunistic and that it's gonna take over something, but
Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or less art.
Just questions?
Search it on the.
Are you selling your book?
And here's the results.
Are you gonna do the bucket, is that what you said? Yeah, okay, so let's just see, we'll do about the other questions and then we'll close and do that. Thank you so much. Anything else? Any other questions?
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Good, yeah, you do it super great, super quick go around and just like a word or phrase of something you kind of take with you from tonight. That's always nice to close.
I'll go first this time.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Sorry.
This and then I.
Encouraged,
oh,
okay.
inspiration. I mean, that's always something that I take away from you guys.
Yeah, inspired and excited to get going.
Calming.
Silage.
Wholesome.
Grab by the leaf, not the stem. Really? I've probably pinched and suffocated something.
Oh, I just thought of, we should cover more stuff with the tarps. And I'm gonna start, some corn inside.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. Thanks again for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your wonderful welcome and it was great to be here tonight. Thank you.